What's up, everybody? It's Jason Cruz here once again with another episode of The Legal Submission. And today we're going to be talking about the Muhammad Ali American Boxing Revival Act and the hearing that took place a week or so ago, what it means, and is it possible that we could be seeing UBOs in boxing in 2026? So, to refresh everyone's memory, the Muhammad Ali American Boxing Revival Act, or the Ali Act, or the Ali Revival Act, as I like to call it, relates to a potential amendment to the existing Ali Act, which would provide something called a Universal Boxing Organization, or UBO. And essentially, what that would mean is that a UBO would be able to circumvent the traditional industry of boxing by not only being its sanctioning organization, but also the promoter of boxing events within the United States. Now, the purpose of this obviously is for Zuffa Boxing, TKO. They're the ones that are spearheading this new act and the ability to change the law to allow Zuffa Boxing to become essentially the UFC of boxing. And what does that mean? Well, the UFC, as we know, has its own titles, its own promoter, and is able to choose fights, title fights, especially based upon what it believes is what the fans want, as opposed to what boxing currently has, which is a ranking system, and the rankings determine who is able to challenge for the title, meaning the number one contender would be able to charge for the title, to challenge for the title against the champion, as opposed to a number five jumping the line and challenging to be the opportunity to be a champion. Now, the UFC, as we know, has the ability to choose whatever it wants, and while that may be good, it does not is not fair to those that are looked over in the process. Now, in boxing, they do have things such as step-aside money, which would compensate a fighter if they do not get their mandatory or their opportunity for a title fight. Obviously, the sport of boxing is not great. It has four organizational bodies. However, the new law that that is intended or is being lobbied for by Zuffa Boxing is not great as well. So on December 4th, there was a hearing related to the proposed amendment to the Muhammad Ali Act, or the Muhammad Ali American Boxing Revival Act, that is going to likely be voted upon in the House in the upcoming session of 2026. The hearing was before a subcommittee for the House Committee on Labor and Education, and in reality, the hearing was basically to prop up the proposed legislation. Now, there were four people testifying before the subcommittee, and those people were Layla Ali, Lonnie Ali, excuse me, the widower of Muhammad Ali, and the individual named after the Muhammad Ali Boxing Reform Act. Andy Foster of the California State Athletic Commission, Patrick English, a boxing attorney who works closely with many regulatory organizations, as well as Lawrence Epstein, formerly legal counsel for Zuffa, now has an executive role within TKO. Now, three of the four people were for the Ali Act, the Revival Act, and what it means for boxers. Now, Lawrence Epstein, Andy Foster, and Mrs. Ali all discussed the benefits of the Revival Act, meaning that the what the act has, which does include higher pay for fighters, for boxers, $150 per round, as well as health insurance, which helps the boxers that are down and out. And it also talks about how the industry is in a state right now where there is no television contracts that show boxing on network TV, let alone cable TV as well. They highlighted the fact that both Showtime and boxing are gone from the landscape of televised boxing, as well as Top Rank from ESPN. That contract no longer exists. So the word revival and Revival Act tends to connote that boxing is dead, and they are trying to resurrect it like Easter and come back alive after some dormant times. While that all may be well and good, Patrick English also brought to light several huge issues that the Ali Act, the Revival Act has, and how it could impact boxers themselves. Now, one of the things that we talked about, I just said, was that the Revival Act, the new proposed law, would prop up and help young up-and-coming fighters. They would give them a minimum amount they would be paid per round. Andy Foster talked about dollar rounds and the destitute nature of boxing on the lower realms, and that is quite true. And also the fact that health insurance would be provided, although we don't know what terms and what it covers and what the deductibles might be, because of course it's insurance. And what else that entails? Well, Patrick English brought to light that there are a lot of issues with boxing, but that does not mean you have to also accept what is proposed right in front of you. And he noted the fact that the Ali Act, as it is presented right now, is designed to protect fighters. It is ambiguous as to whether or not the Revival Act would be able to protect fighters from coercive contracts. And specifically, we talk about these UBOs. So one of the highlights of the the Revival Act is that the UBO would run parallel to the current nature of boxing. So I believe Lawrence Epstein brought up the fact that if boxers did not like the potential of a UBO, they could just do what's going on right now in boxing. And the picture that is painted of boxing right now is not great. But notwithstanding that, it does not necessarily mean you have to take the lesser of two evils. And here, Mr. English talks about the fact that the current Ali Act has protection from coercive contracts, not known if that occurs in a UBO. Disclosures by promoters as to where they're getting, how much they're making off of a specific event, that's included in the Ali Act. With a UBO, it's unknown. Rules applicable to sanctioning bodies that protect fighters are not applicable under the UBO. The issue related to drug testing and the fact that under the UBO, you might be able to just report a drug failure to the UBO and not the actual sanctioning body or state commission, which could basically circumvent the issue and prospect of fair and equal testing. There is the fact that it's vague as to what's to be tested. It's not quite sure what a UBO would be testing, what rules they would be take. Would they take their own? Would they be making up their own rules as far as drug testing? There's issues related to what drugs are on a banned list. Would they be going through specific standards like the Association of Boxing Commissions, or would they be doing something else? There is no requirement that participants in all title bouts be tested. And the other issue is that it creates two classes of promoters. And it's not clear how those promoters, if they would be those types of organizations, the UBO versus promoters, would be fairly treated the same. That sort of thing. The English brings up a lot of potential issues, not just the ones I noted, but there's several other big ones. But the majority of what we are hearing and what we heard at this hearing is that the boxing industry is broken, and only the Ali American Boxing Revival Act can save it. During the hearing, they brought up the fact that Terence Crawford was stripped of his title belt because he did not pay a sanctioning fee to the sanctioning organization. Now, while the politicians call it hypocrisy and a miscarriage of justice and an example of why they need new parameters within the sport of boxing, Terence Crawford knew that is an industry standard to pay sanctioning organizations money. Even though it was $300,000, he and also the people retelling the issue don't bring up the fact that Crawford was paid $50 million. And a small percentage of that would go to the sanctioning organization. Well, what is to become? What is there it to become, and what do we make of the hearing? Well, the hearing specifically was a way to culminate a week of media relations on the behalf of TKO. Now, prior to the hearing on this Thursday, December 4th, there were interviews made by Tony Khan on Pat McAfee and other other podcasts. I believe was Logan Paul's contest, where they talked about the business of boxing. Terence Crawford made his big dramatic scene earlier in the week before that the Muhammad Ali Boxing Act hearing, and we were able to see the testimony for those who did on that Thursday. Now, I say those that did because after about 10 days of it being on the internet, less than 1,000 people had watched it, which is surprising considering how important it is to the sport of boxing. I'm not quite sure where boxing managers feel on this. I'm certain that other promoters, aside from Zuffa Boxing, are against the Revival Act. And I would think that creating two distinct universes would cause confusion as well as cause division among boxers. Now, again, one of the things that was brought up by English is the potential for coercive contracts. The California State Athletic Commission had a hearing to determine whether or not to agree to supporting the Muhammad Ali Boxing Revival Act. And what was interesting about that is in September, the CSAC, the California State Athletic Commission, led by Andy Foster, had a hearing to determine this. There was strenuous opposition during the public comment by fans, boxers, former UFC fighters who could foresee how a law like this one would cause economic harm to those fighters, because the UFC fighters could see that it's the same system that was set up by the UFC prior to the Kung Lee UFC antitrust lawsuit. So the interesting part about the CSAC thing is that there was going to be a committee that would study the issue and report back in December. Well, lo and behold, the next month they decide to steamroll this to a vote, which went through unanimously for the CSAC to support the Muhammad Ali Boxing Reform Act. And wouldn't you know, in December, they have a hearing in which Andy Foster shows up. So why I bring that up is because it was clear that they were going to have this hearing in December. They had to speed up what was going on in California. So instead of having the study committee report back in December, they rushed it to make that vote in October to allow Foster to say that the state of California, one of the biggest states in the United States and one that holds many boxing events, supported the Ali Act, the Ali Revival Act. Sorry, I keep bouncing over that. But anyway, here's the thing. We will probably see this getting rushed through Congress very soon, once the new term starts, I believe in January 2026. It is up to boxers, influencers, people to talk to their congresspeople to attempt to stop this law from occurring. It does not have to be this law or the old law. You could definitely go and make a committee that would include TKO representative as well as sanctioning bodies to come up with something better to make the boxing industry more palatable for everybody, so that boxers can get a fair shake, so promoters can make a fair shake. They're making a living, I know it. Managers can get a fair shake within the industry. We don't have to have Zuffa Boxing controlling American boxing. They could have multiple organizations having different champions and have these inter-promotional fights that would greatly grow the sport of boxing. But what we are seeing is, of course, Zuffa attempting to jump into the market and grab as much market share as it can. Now, that's the spirit of capitalism. We get it. But it's clear that this new law has issues, and we get that too. So I think that's that's one thing we should know about, is get educated on the law, watch the hearing, look at Pat English's testimony, and compare that to what's being testified to. That's my soapbox for today. Jason Cruz for the Legal Submission, MMAPayout.com. Have a great one.